Okay. Welcome to this hearing of the Birmingham City Council Licensing Subcommittee A on Thursday the 9th of September. My name is Councillor Philip Davis. I'll be chairing this hearing of Subcommittee A today. Before we start, can you all please mute your microphones for the moment in order to improve the sound quality while I talk about the procedure. Other than members, could you please turn off your cameras unless you're the person speaking, as this assists the bandwidth. Committee members will have their cameras switched on throughout the hearing. And could everyone attending today's meeting please put their mobiles on silent and observe the usual niceties around avoiding extraneous noise, etc., and disturbance. It's very important, because of the way we're holding the meeting, that obviously all persons participating and indeed the live stream lookers in are able to hear me and the members of the subcommittee and the officers. Any distraction brought to my attention could result in the meeting being suspended temporarily or to another date and time under the regulations for these types of meetings. I also confirm that this is a public meeting and is therefore being live streamed on the City Council's website in order that the general public can view it. I'll now deal with the formal agenda. Item 1, notice of recording webcast. I advise the meeting to note that this meeting will be webcast for live or subsequent broadcast via the Council's internet site, and that members of the public may record and take photographs, except where there are confidential or exempt items. Declarations of interest. Members are reminded that they must declare all relevant pecuniary and non-pecuniary interests arising from any business to be discussed at this meeting. If a disclosable pecuniary interest is declared, a member must not speak or take part in that agenda item. Any declarations will be recorded in the minutes of the meeting. Item 3, apologies and notification to committee members. Apologies are submitted from Councillor Beecham, with Councillor Locke as the nominated substitute member, and also for Councillor Straker-Wells. So Councillor Donaldson is also a nominated substitute member. And along with myself, that constitutes the panel of 3. So I welcome you to this hearing for an application in respect of 6 and 7 Chad Square, 43 Hawthorne Road, Edgbaston, Birmingham, B15 3TQ. As stated previously, I'm Councillor Philip Davis and I'm chairing this meeting of the Licensing Subcommittee. Again, with me are my colleagues, Councillors Diane Donaldson and Councillor Mary Locke. Also present in the meeting are the following officers: the Licensing Officer, Mr. Shahid Yasser, the Committee Manager and Meeting Manager, Mr. Phil Wright, and we also have in attendance Ms. Sophia Mertz, Committee Manager, who is shadowing Mr. Wright today. And we also have the Committee Lawyer, Ms. Joanne Swampilai. Okay, so in terms of the parties attending, could I ask the parties representing the applicant to identify themselves? Firstly, Mr. Buckeye.
Yes, good morning again.
Okay, thank you. And you have with you, as you've indicated, Mr. Sander from your practice.
Yes, correct, and David from the company.
Okay, thank you. And Mr. Sorry, you said David Corral, is it?
Yes, he's from David. David is from the business, from the applicant company.
From the applicant company, yes. Thank you very much. Okay. Now, those wishing to make representations, and I think that is just Councillor Alden.
Yes, that's me. I'm Councillor Alden. I represent Edgbaston.
Thank you very much. And so the first item of business is, can I ask if any person making representations, I think this is addressed to yourself, Councillor Alden, wish to withdraw their representation at this stage of the hearing?
No.
Okay, thank you. So a little bit more about the process. I'll assume all parties have read and understood the Licensing Committee's procedural rules set out with the notice of today's hearing. Please note that given the nature of the proceedings online today, I may at my discretion. Sorry, can I just ask? I think Mr. Buckeye, you need to mute your microphone. We're getting some feed in. There we are. Thank you. Okay. So I assume all parties have read the procedural rules sent out for today's hearing. And given the nature of today's proceedings, I may, at my discretion, amend the procedural rules to reflect the fact that this meeting is taking place online. But I want to assure all parties that any such amendments will not impact on the right to a fair hearing. We'll be using the chat function as part of the online process. I think everybody is pretty familiar with this process now, so I won't go into that, but it's the button. You should have a button on your toolbar which looks like a chat bubble, and you get into the system that way. What we will do though now is use the chat to confirm attendance, including that of the members. So if we could go into chat and put in our names, that will assist the record of the meeting as well. So thank you.
Could I ask to pause the meeting? I've just got something being delivered. All right, I've just asked to pause.
Oh, all right, we'll pause while people are putting in the chat names anyway. And Councillor Locke is there, so we can proceed. Okay.
Apologies to all.
It's all right. We'll just get back to the. Sorry, I'm just getting back to my main list of participants. Okay. Okay, thank you for that. Now, we'll keep the chat column open for the duration of the meeting in case of any communications issues. But I don't think we have anybody dialed in by audio telephone. But if that's not the case, please let me know now. And again, with the exception of subcommittee members, could you please keep your cameras off unless you're the person speaking? If there are problems with the bandwidth, I may ask everyone to turn their cameras off so the meeting can proceed in audio only. Okay, so we now come to preliminary points. Mr. Botka, I understand you may have a preliminary point you wish to raise.
Yes, thank you. I circulated some amendments to the operating schedule. I think it was yesterday, actually. Really, because the original plan was that there would be no customer access at all to these programs. So I'll explain the whole concept of what we do in a moment. But there will be an element of click and collect from these premises. And so in order to achieve that, I had to take out a condition that there's no public access at all. And that we will have a limited customer access, which is for click and collect only. So I amended the applicant. I discussed it with Mark Swallow, your police licensing officer. He agreed the amendments, and he's confirmed that in writing as well. He's satisfied with the application as amended. I discussed with Bapinder, your licensing officer, as well, and he said just raise this as a preliminary point. So I have written to everybody who made a representation with the changes. So I'm hoping that you will agree that we proceed on that basis, and the amended operating schedule that was circulated yesterday. And I'll talk you through the changes as we proceed.
Yes, I think we may have to adjourn to consider whether we what course of action we take. But what I'd like to do is ask Councillor Alden, as she's the board member, but also the only objector present, her view is of a proposed amendment of that scale.
First of all, I was very disappointed to only receive it yesterday. I find it hard to believe that they only came up with this idea yesterday. And secondly, of course, it alters the nature of it because it wasn't going to have any public access. And now it is basically operating as a click and collect takeaway all day long. Not in the middle of the night, that will be for other people to collect in the middle of the night, but all day long it will be operating basically as a takeaway. You collect your food and there's nothing to stop you hanging around outside and eating it and causing a nuisance, etc. So I think it makes it worse, and I'm not happy about the timing.
Okay, thanks for that. Yes, sorry, I'm getting some. Yeah, Mr. Buck.
I'm really sorry, it's me. Somebody's doing the gardening.
Oh, I'll just ask Mr. Buckeye as if he's heard what Councillor Alden has said. So, Councillor Buckeye, Mr. Buckeye, I do need to come back to you.
Yeah, it's not my garden. It's not my garden, by the way. Yeah, the change is really to allow click and collect between 9 o'clock in the morning. So it's groceries. It's not just about alcohol, but alcohol can be part of it. If it's a real concern, we can exclude alcohol from the click and collect, but we don't expect people to use click and collect and then to consume whatever they buy outside the premises. So, I mean, that's really dealing with we'll be dealing with the application if you agree to deal with it. I'm just seeking permission actually to amend it at the moment. I don't think it's a major change, but it is a change. The police are satisfied, and we'd very much like to proceed with the application today. And the council will be able to air her concerns during the course of the hearing itself.
Okay, we're going to adjourn. I would just make the point that obviously you have written to all the persons who expressed an interest in the application for or against, but we normally have a wider process of notification, and this point would not have been put obviously into that wider arena. So we have to consider this as a fairly major change to the application. Do you have anything?
I understand. Yeah, I understand that. We don't expect click and collect to be used a huge amount. It is only from 9 till 5, and we are the main operation here will be we would expect to be delivery under the app, but there will be that facility for customers to access the click and collect, and also the premises will be attractively presented, so it won't look like a dark store, so to speak. It won't be an ugly facade. It will be dressed attractively from the outside as well.
Okay,
just add something very, very quickly. Just to say, we wouldn't be marketing the click and collect, so you'd only know about it if you were to actually go past the area and see it for yourself.
okay, thank you for that. I think we could go. We'll need to adjourn now. The panel will need to adjourn to consider this application. So let me see what time is it now. We'll adjourn for 15 minutes and return at 25 to 11. If there's any delay, obviously we'll come back. But on that basis.
Can I just ask a question?
Yes.
Technical question. So if we press leave now and we leave the meeting, can we then it will allow us to rejoin in a quarter of an hour?
Yes, you'll be able to rejoin on the Teams. We shall go into our own private side meeting on Teams, but you'll be able to either stay in this meeting now or come out and rejoin this meeting. We'll go out and come back into this main.
So I could just leave it on and reduce the window.
Yes, absolutely. Yes, that's
fine. I'll do that. Thank you.
Okay, thanks. Okay, so we will leave this meeting. That's the panel members and the officers, and we'll return, as I say, in 15 minutes' time. Yes, we are. If you'd start the live stream. Yes, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, we're ready now, Chair.
Okay, thank you. This is the recommenced hearing of Subcommittee A for the for decision on the of a grant of a licence to 6 and 7 Chad Square, 43 Hawthorne Road, Edgbaston, Birmingham, B15 3TQ. We've had a brief adjournment as a panel to consider the request for an amendment to the application. And the subcommittee's view is that it's not minded to accept the application to amend. The panel feels that the proposed amendment fundamentally changes the application, and given the lack of opportunity for the wider public to be consulted, it would be unreasonable to proceed to hear the application as proposed to be amended. The applicant is invited to proceed with the application as originally submitted, or to withdraw and make a fresh application. That's our decision, Mr. Bokhai. Would you like a short amendment to discuss with your client?
Yes, if we could have 5 minutes, which would be fine. Thank you very much.
Okay, well, let's reconvene at 10 to 11. 10 to 11.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Okay. reconvene licensing subcommittee A concerning the grant of a licence to 6 and 7 Chad Square, 44 Hawthorne Road, Edgbaston, Birmingham, B53TQ. We had adjourned to allow the applicant to consider a point and return to us. So, Mr. Bockeye, what is the position?
And thank you very much for the short adjournment. I believe we have a solution that we go back to the operating schedule that's in the papers, so pages 32 to 36. This is an application for the sale of alcohol only. Now, this is going to be a convenience delivery service, and that's outside of licensing. So all we need to do is in condition 1, where it says that members of the public will have no access to the premises. If we say members of the public will have no access to the premises for the purchase of alcohol, or purchase or collection of alcohol, then that does it. So there will be no click and collect for alcohol. Then we can proceed with the application today. So it's an application for the delivery of alcohol only. And I believe that should, there's no reason why that shouldn't progress. So I'm sorry if we've caused some confusion. It's with the best intentions, and I can explain further for the delay, the timing if you wish. It's not really relevant to the crux of the application.
So repeat again your proposed change. Then I've got the page in front of me, page 32.
Yes.
Point
I've got
1.
2 page numbers. It's a bit confusing. I've got 2 page numbers on there. I don't know whether it's 30 or 31. Is it page 30 where it's got the conditions?
I'm sorry, it's 30. You're right. Yes, at the bottom. Yes,
Yeah.
it's 30.
Yeah. So page 30. In condition 1, it says sale of alcohol from the premises shall be for delivery only by a delivery rider. Members of the public will have no access to the premises. So if we simply say there, members of the public will have no access to the premises for the purchase or collection of alcohol, then that deals with the issue, I think. So we can have click and collect for groceries, but no click and collect for alcohol.
So the click and collect proposal is what is introduced.
Well, no, because it's not, because it's not part of it's not a licensable activity. Click and collect is not a licensable activity. So
yeah, I understand your point. Yes, obviously we're not regulating the click and collect on grocery collection. That's not within our powers. Yes, I understand.
Exactly. So it's a very small change to the application, just to make clear. I didn't want to mislead. This all came about because I didn't want to mislead you as a committee today with the words members of the public will have no access to the premises. There is a click and collect facility. If we exclude alcohol from it, then that doesn't actually change the licensable activity as such, but it makes it clear that there's no access to the public to come. And as the council was worried that people would come in, buy alcohol, and then consume it in Chad Square, they're not going to be able to do that. They won't be able to.
I understand your point. What I propose to do is just have a brief adjournment for the members, so we can just consider any ramifications there in terms of the slight change to the wording, and just take some advice. I don't need any more than 10 minutes for that.
Okay.
So if we can pause, colleagues, and go back into the private session, we'll come back in 10 minutes. So we'll come back at 11:10. Okay, I think the live stream is resumed. So again, we're resuming the proceedings of the Licensing Subcommittee A in consideration of grant to 6 and 7 Chad Square, 43 Hawthorne Road, Edgbaston, Birmingham, B153TQ. So we are able to proceed to hear the application and just talk about the procedure briefly. Firstly, the licensing officer, Mr. Shayed, will present the report. Then the applicant and their representative will be asked to present their case. And we're asking if this could be kept to approximately 20 minutes for the applicant's case. Then those making representations will be invited to make their case. Again, approximately 20 minutes will be allowed for this part of the hearing. And again, if all parties can speak as slowly and clearly as possibly, because the officers are taking notes by hand for the minutes, and the meeting is being live streamed, as we know. If at any time it is somebody else's turn to speak, please mute your microphone and use the chat function to communicate if necessary. Please note that members of the subcommittee will be able to ask questions at any stage, but we'll try to do so at the conclusion of each presentation. Cross-examination by the applicant and those making representations will not be permitted unless the members consider it appropriate. Where questions are raised by members of the subcommittee or by those present, you can use the chat function to signify you want to speak, or you can indicate verbally in the usual way. The chat function is being monitored by the officers, so they will notify me if I miss a particular point. If at any point you can't hear or having problems with your internet connection, again, please use the chat facility to alert us. And again, I can take steps to make sure that everyone is audible and is able to participate. And again, please mute your microphones, turn off your cameras when you're not the person speaking to avoid interference. Occasionally, as we've noted, it may be necessary for the subcommittee to take legal advice, and at my discretion, I may ask all parties to wait in the meeting room. We've seen that, we've done that already, so I won't go over all the detail there. We're also live streaming the meeting, as has been noted. If that fails for any reason, I'll ask you all to mute your microphones and cameras and to stop speaking until the live stream is restored. So public access is continues to be available. If at any time the meeting goes into a private session, again, we've done this, we'll pause the live stream. So at the conclusion of the hearing, I'll invite all parties to make a brief closing submission. And I stress no decision will be taken until all the evidence has been heard. At the decision-making stage, the members and the relevant officers will withdraw from this meeting in order to determine the decision. They'll go into a separate Microsoft Teams meeting. In the event that the meeting needs to clarify any point, you'll be telephoned by the meeting manager. The members will then make their decision. Notification of the determination of the application will be sent out to all parties within 5 working days.
Chair, you've frozen. Chair.
Process. So is asked the license officer to show.
Chair, we didn't catch any of that.
Hello, are you able to hear me?
Yes.
Yes, yeah. Chair. Can you just repeat the last little bit?
Point. That was well, I was just introducing the licensing officer. So was it before that or at that point?
I think it was roughly at that point, Chair, I think. Okay,
yes. So I'd finished the procedural outline. And so what I was then doing, what I will now do, is ask the licensing officer, Mr. Shahid Yasser, to present his report, please.
Thank you, Chair. Quick Commerce Limited applied on the 21st of July 2021 for the grant of a premises license for 6 and 7 Chad Square, 43 Hawthorne Road, Edgbaston, Birmingham, B15 3TQ. Councillors, the purpose of the report before you today is to consider representations that have been made in respect of an application for a premises license which seeks to permit the sale of alcohol for consumption off the premises to operate for 24 hours a day, Monday to Sunday. Representations have been received from other persons, and these are attached to appendices 1 to 8 of your report. The application is attached to Appendix 9. Conditions have been agreed with West Midlands Police and the applicant, which are attached to Appendix 10. There's also some site location plans attached to Appendix 11 of your report. Now, when carrying out its licensing function, a licensing authority must have regard to Birmingham City Council's Statement of Licensing Policy and the guidance issued by the Secretary of State under Section 182 of the Licensing Act 2003. The licensing authority is also required to take such steps as it considers appropriate for the promotion of the licensing objectives. Councillors, the options which are available to you today are to grant the licence in accordance with the application, to reject the application, to grant the licence subject to conditions modified to such an extent as you consider appropriate, exclude from the licence any of the licensable activities to which the application relates, refuse to specify a person in the licence as the designated premises supervisor. Thank you for that, Chair.
Okay, thank you very much for that. So we now can move on to the applicant's presentation. So, Mr. Bokkar, you'll be speaking for your client, no doubt.
Yes, and thank you again for the various adjournments. I'm pleased that we've got to this stage. So, a little bit about our operation. So, Quick Commerce Limited is the applicant. Quick Commerce has an application which you can access on your phone or laptop, and a customer is able to go onto the app and place an order for convenience store goods. We then have a store where we store a range. I think it's about 2,000 lines of convenience store goods. So it can range from cornflakes to pharmaceutical items and nappies and baby food, as well as including alcohol, as any other convenience store would do so. The customer places the order on the app. They pay for the order on the app. They have to declare, if they're buying alcohol, they have to declare that they are over the age of 18, and they are warned that they will be asked for ID when any alcohol is delivered. We then deliver the items, the grocery items, within 20 minutes of the order being placed. And the app is called Zap. We have now some 20 operating stores in the London area, and we are opening in Manchester, Leeds, Portsmouth, Southampton, and other cities around the UK, and we're very keen to come to Birmingham. We only deliver to residential or business addresses, so there is no delivery to open spaces, to parks that may well concern you. And very importantly, and a major distinction from other delivery services that you may be familiar with, all the riders are directly employed by the applicant, by the license holder. So we're not using third-party delivery riders. And the reason that's important is where there have been issues with delivery companies, it's that their riders or drivers can sometimes be seen loitering around residential premises or indeed outside restaurants and off licenses, because they go from premise to premise awaiting the next delivery. The distinction with ours is that our riders collect from our store, and they deliver to the customer, and then they come back to our store. They don't go anywhere else. And we provide, we've got effectively mission control, whereby we offer the riders assistance to find the address that they are looking for. Within the premises, we have toilet facilities and a refreshment area for the riders, and they are very clearly instructed not to loiter outside of the premises. So in this case, they wouldn't be hanging around in Chad Square. One of the issues that we hear time and time again when we apply for a license is the concern that residents have got about urination and that sort of thing of drivers or riders in the gig economy causing a nuisance. That doesn't apply here. They come back into our premises where they have the refreshment and toilet facilities. They also, as they're directly employed by us, they will wear our uniforms as well. They're very smart, brightly coloured uniforms, so they become known in the area, and they will know the area very well as well. So you'll find that they will become familiar faces in the area, both during the day and at night. So there are benefits to that as well. We only use electric bikes or scooters. Now I got into trouble the other day when I was talking about scooters. I think we were in Richmond for a hearing, and they thought I was talking about the little scooters that are being trialled in different parts of the country. And I know that you have got those scooters in Birmingham, because my son is a medical student in Birmingham and has free access to the scooters. So we're not talking about those little scooters. We're talking about electric bicycles, so pedal bikes that have got a battery. And there will be fewer, but there will be some like Vespa type electric scooters for the larger orders. But we don't use cars, and it's electric only. And that's important in terms of the environment, but also in terms of noise. They're virtually silent vehicles. Now, for this one, we are in it's a retail parade. We are taking 2 units of the two of the retail units next door to each other. So the bikes will be, we will be able to take some of the bikes inside, but also we are going to be provided with an area where there are some bike hoops outside. That doesn't mean that we're going to be taking up hoops that are used by by members of the public, and we have offered to the landlord that we will install additional bike hoops to make sure that we're not reducing the number of bike hoops available to members of the public. So there will be a combination of bikes going inside the premises and some bikes being kept locked outside. The conditions that you have in Appendix 10 have been agreed with the Police Licensing Officer, Mark Swallow, and we'll also agree that any inbound deliveries are limited between the hours of 8 o'clock in the morning and 10 o'clock at night. So one of the concerns, I think, of the residents is all-night deliveries to the premises. That won't happen. They will be they will take place during reasonable times. Now, looking at the representations, Councillor Oldham, who will be addressing you shortly, is concerned about delivery drivers taking up parking spaces in Chad Square. And as I've just explained, we don't have any delivery drivers, so we don't use cars, so they won't be using any of those parking spaces in Chad Square. We use bikes only, and they won't be occupying any of those spaces. Her next concern is about if we have all these cars going in and out, we're going to cause mayhem on the roads. And we don't. We just have bikes, and again, the riders are instructed to ride considerately and not be racing around, racing in and out of this retail parade. There's a concern about noise disturbance 24 hours a day. The operation of the bikes going in and out is almost silent, so we don't expect that to cause any disturbance whatsoever to residents. And of course, if you weren't to grant the licence, we would still be able to operate the grocery side of things. So the question is really whether the the inclusion of alcohol in a delivery product package creates more noise than alcohol not being included in the delivery package, and of course it doesn't. So this is not an off-license application that you would normally consider. It's a very quiet operation indeed. There's a concern then about cooking smells. We don't do any cooking at the premises, and there is no delivery of hot food at all. No hot food, no hot drinks. So there's no cooking smells coming out of the premises. Councillor Alden has asked that roll cages are to be in the service yard only. Well, yes, that's fine. Our deliveries are going to be round the back through the service yard, so there'll be no roller cages going across the Chad Square. So that can be conditioned if you consider that appropriate to the licensing objectives. Looking at the other representations from residents, pretty much covered by Councillor Alden. Air pollution, I think I covered that there's we use electric vehicles only for outward deliveries. Obviously, the deliveries to inward would not be electric at this stage, but we are looking at electric vehicles for the future for deliveries, but we're not there yet. There's obviously the concern about potential for accidents. I hope I've offered some reassurance that we don't have cars going in and out. It's going to be bikes only, so the children are not going to be at any greater risk. The safety children are not at any greater risk than is presently the case. One of the residents refers to delivery riders loitering. I think I've addressed you on that. We have a very different operation to delivery. One other distinction as well is that when if a rider, I'll talk about age verification in a moment, when they deliver and they ask for, they check age on the doorstep, if for whatever reason they withhold the alcohol, their instruction is to bring the alcohol back to the store. Now, some of the third-party delivery companies tell their couriers to dispose of the alcohol responsibly. We don't. We say it's got to come back to the store, and a record is kept. Mr. Howard, who I think he lives opposite, doesn't want to look out at a busy semi-industrial unit. I did explain before that this will be attractively window dressed, so it will be smartly leveraged, if you like, as ZAP, and all the vehicles are ZAP leveraged as well, so it won't look like an industrial unit at all. There's a concern about impact on wildlife. I'm not proposing to address you on that unless you feel that it is relevant to this application. And then delivery times, I've mentioned, will be daytime only. So in terms of the Challenge 25 process, I mentioned before, I can't remember if it's before an adjournment, I think it probably was, but we have an age declaration on the app itself. So when the customer places the order, they have to declare that they are age 18 or above. There's a warning then on the basket when they're completing the process, and then the order is processed in the store. The staff member who's packaging the items will verbally warn the rider that there is alcohol in the delivery package, and there will also be placed on the delivery package a sticker, an age verification warning sticker, again to warn the rider that there is alcohol in the package. The rider then goes to the destination, and if he or she believes that the customer receiving the order is aged under 25, then they ask for ID, and if ID can't be produced or if it's not satisfactory, then the alcohol is withheld and it's brought back to store. Now, all of the riders are employed by us, and they are trained by us, as in by Quick Commerce. It's a process that's taken very seriously. They like the riders to feel part of the business. So this is not the gig economy. They feel part of the ZAP journey. They will have full training, face-to-face, and they have refresher training at least every 6 months. They are instructed very clearly not to congregate outside or to smoke outside any resident homes. So when I've appeared before you, and I know that I've appeared by some of the committee before on various applications, and you hear off license applications all the time, and the concerns that you generally have about off licenses are about street drinking, it's about people gathering outside. It's about proxy sales and alcohol being consumed in the neighbourhood and being a cause of crime and disorder. So I know you as a committee have heard of all of that before and considered all that before. None of that applies here, because there will be no sale or collection of alcohol to people coming into the premises. They won't be consuming outside the premises. We only deliver to people's homes. We are asking for 24 hours. That's a very important part of our business. Now, there are two sides to this. We would argue, and this has been aired many times now, that because we have applied in community and been granted licenses in community of impact areas as well, where there is a presumption of refusal. One of the advantages of the delivery service is that it is enabling people who otherwise may want to go out late at night to the late night economy or to late night off licenses. They are able to order from the safety of their home and then consume. It doesn't mean they consume instantly, but they can order from the safety of their home and they don't need to venture out. And that has become increasingly popular, as I'm sure you're aware, over the last 18 months, and we expect that that popularity to remain. So people do want this service. The 24 hours is not just about alcohol. I'm told that baby food is very popular during the night as well, and toilet paper and various other items. But it is an important part of our service that we are able to deliver 24 hours a day. So that's the application. It's most unlikely that residents are going to be negatively impacted in the way that some of them have said. There will be no noise breakout at all. Obviously, we have to deliver to the premises as any other business does, but we will take every step to keep that process as quiet as possible. And that also strays into planning, really, because we would need deliveries whether we've got alcohol or not. So the delivery of alcohol is no noisier than any other product. So that's the application. I don't know whether you've considered previous applications by these delivery apps. Very happy to explain it further. David can give more detail on the training of the riders. It's something that the applicant takes extremely seriously, and any other concerns that you may have. But thank you for listening so far.
You're on mute, Chair.
Yeah.
Sorry, there we are. Thank you very much for that, Mr. Buckeye. You just make sure I am fully in communication there. Can you hear me?
Yes, Chair.
Yep. Okay. Thank you. Okay. So members' questions. Councillor Donaldson, do you have any questions?
No, Chair.
Okay. Councillor Locke?
I have a couple. How many riders will be employed, or do you envision employing?
Well, this will vary. Initially, it's likely between 6 and 10, but that can increase. The trick is to ensure that everybody is in utilisation at any one time. They have sophisticated algorithms to work this out. So what they don't want is 12 riders sitting around inside the premises with nothing to do. So they have to work out, and that will take some time as the business develops. I can't give you a precise number.
Also, will they be local Birmingham people?
Certainly, I would expect so. Yes.
And also, one of the other things, disposal of waste. You know, you have deliveries and everything. How will it be disposed of?
David may have that information, but again, we can make sure it's done within reasonable hours. So certainly not during the night. David, do you have any information on that?
Yes. Hello to everyone, first of all, and I'm sorry if it's a little disconcerting that I've moved location. I've actually got the roofers in today, and they're making a bit of a racket upstairs, so I've come downstairs. Yes, we partner with a waste supplier, the same waste supplier. They're called First Mile, quite a large American company, and we partner with them nationwide. They deal with us at every single store, so they know our operation very well. They know what we require. They know that our time restrictions are very important, and we can only receive collections of waste in the daytime. So they'll be providing the service for us at this location, like they do at every location, and it'll only be between the hours of, I believe, 8 a.m. and 10 p.m. The hours that we enforce.
Thank you.
Will that be a couple of times a week, or or as required?
Exactly. We start off with a couple of times a week. If it was to really increase, we would, in terms of our operation, our service popularity, we might need to add an extra and make it 3 times a week. But the vast majority of our stores are on twice a week at the moment.
All I have, Chair.
Okay, thank you for that. No questions from me. So thank you for that presentation and the information provided there, Mr. Buckeye. As you know, you'll get a chance to sum up later on. Okay, so I'm now going to move on to Councillor Alden and ask her to make representations. Councillor Alden.
Thank you, Chairman. This is a parade of shops which was built in the 1960s or 70s. So modern shops with flats above, as they form, the shops form an L shape. And the flats above are they're not connected to the shops below. They have a quite separate entrance in the middle of the parade. So the people living in the flats above these shops wouldn't be anything to do with the business below necessarily, and probably in almost every case. So you can be living in one of these flats or in the flats which are called Malmesbury Park, where I know some people have objected from, which are opposite. And there are other flats and houses at the side and at the back. And all of these people would have been living with a small local parade of shops that we've all got in our wards, where you would expect shop hours. There are also a couple of restaurants, which obviously are open in the evening, but not open for most of the day. And certainly nothing is open all through the night. So my complaint really is that the all through the night business of the alcohol collection, because my understanding is you have a duty to prevent harm to children, and prevent public nuisance. And I think if you are living above or opposite this premises and commerce is going on 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, there is the potential for disturbance who live above that or opposite that. And therefore, if it's a child who's got to get up for school and they're disturbed in the night, well, that is harm to children and public nuisance for people who have to get up and work. Nobody would have expected that sort of premises to be working 24 hours a day. It's bang in the middle of a residential area. Now, we've been told that only electric vehicles would be used. But of course, cars are electric now, and more will be in the future. So I would have a query as to, will electric cars be used? They would fit the criteria of being electric, but they would be cars and they would fill up a parking space. There are, of course, a finite number of parking spaces there. So if you come on a sort of Vespa type scooter, you're going to take a parking space. And I believe Mr. Buckeye said that they would put in some more bicycle hoops. But there again, there is finite space there. And so that's got to take up a parking space to put in more bicycle hoops, presumably. You can't just, there's no new space. So I think that's an issue. It was said that having alcohol through the night won't make any difference. I suggest it would make a difference. To start with, there will, I'm sure, be a number of people who wouldn't use that outlet if they couldn't buy alcohol as well. So it will increase the number of transactions they have, I'm sure, else why would they be wanting to sell it? So I think the number of transactions used will increase because the alcohol is available to order as well. And also, alcohol does actually make a bit of a noise. Your bottles clank together. We all know that if you pick them up in the supermarket, whatever, or tin cans, they do make a bit of noise. And again, in the middle of the day, nobody would think about that. If it's the middle of the night and you're asleep immediately above it, well, that might disturb you. So I think the idea of alcohol hours a day is a disturbance to people who live nearby. I have to say, the whole idea of it slightly worries me, that people on open vehicles such as bikes would be going around in the middle of the night delivering alcohol is a concern, I would have thought. In Edgbaston, I don't know, but I would think a lot of these people may well be students or young people doing this kind of job to supplement their income or to pay their way through university. And driving around in the middle of the night with alcohol, is that not leaving them open to being victims of crime themselves? And when they get to the property where the person has ordered the alcohol and they don't think that they look 25, would they really, in the middle of the night, want to question that? I don't think I would. I'm quite sure people would feel obliged to pass it over because they don't want a row in the middle of the night. In the middle of the night, you're very vulnerable. There aren't passers-by. I'm sure we would all agree, in the middle of the night, doing that kind of thing, we would feel more vulnerable than we would in the middle of the day. So I'm concerned about the whole idea of the operation, actually, of that operating through the night, because I think it's a risk to people. I think that's probably everything I wanted to say. One other thing. We've now had this click and collect aspect for alcohol taken out in order that you can hear it today. Okay, but there's still going to be click and collect available for groceries, we're told, all day long. So who is going to monitor to make sure that during the day, when they're not allowed to have click and collect alcohol, they're not going to do so? We all know they're going to have alcohol on the premises. Alcohol can be delivered in the night, it can be delivered in the day, presumably. But if you click and collect, they're going to stand there and say, actually, although we've got all this alcohol here, you can't have it. Well, that's fine, but who's going to monitor that? Because otherwise, you don't give a license, but how are you going to know they're not going to do it anyway? So I'd like to know what the committee or the licensing department is going to do to make sure that that doesn't happen. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Alden. Councillor Locke, any questions?
No, thank you, Chair.
Councillor Donaldson?
No, Chair.
Just one from me, really. Just again on the residential element. So there are residents above the premises,
Yes.
and above the premises of each of the shops on that row. I've got the map in front of me. It just gives me a notion of scale, and I know you know the area, and I'm less familiar with it. And then opposite the premises, there are a block of flats, basically. Yeah. Okay. All right. That's
yes. So it's an L shape, as you'll be able to see, and the entrance to the flats above the shop is in the middle of the L shape. So they are not accessed from the shops. They are quite separate flats with their own staircase. And yes, it's a block of 6 opposite, and then a lot more around. That's one of many, but that one's bang opposite.
And so, in terms of the access for riders, do they? As far as you know, does it look as though they'll be coming into the back of the shop? I mean, Mr. Bocavio to answer this in his final comments, no doubt. But do they come into the back of the shop? I
believe the riders will be coming in through the front, but the deliveries, but the deliveries will be via the service yard. That's my understanding.
Yeah, there's a service yard, in other words. Yeah, that's okay. That gives me a picture. Yes, thank you for that. Okay, so Councillor Alden, is that your representations?
Yes.
Yes. Okay, thank you very much. Okay, so we are now on to closing submissions, in fact, and in fact, it's back to you, Councillor Alden, if you want to sum up your remarks.
Well, to sum up, my concern is the people who are living immediately above and around the premises, who have lived in the vicinity of a small parade of local shops all the time and suddenly find this is a 24-hour operation delivering alcohol, which is not what anybody expects when they live in a flat above a shop, which is not their shop. So I'm very concerned about that. I'm concerned about the whole aspect, the way it works, actually. But it's the having something like that going on 24 hours a day, I think is potentially causing a public nuisance to people that are trying to sleep above because they've got to get up and go to work, and potentially children who've got to go to school. So it's harm to children if their sleep is disturbed. And there's no respite. It's 24 hours, 7 days a week. There is no respite at all. If it turns out to be awful, they don't even get Sunday night off. It's awful. So I am very concerned about that. And I would like to know the answer to the question of what about electric cars? They fit the criteria for electric vehicles, but they will be cars. Are they never going to be used? And also, I would like to know from licensing how you're going to monitor that if they allow click and collect during the day, how you're going to make sure that they don't allow alcohol to go out with those other groceries. If you're particularly not giving a license for that because you've decided that's got to be taken out, how are you going to monitor that? Thank you very much.
Thank you for that. So now back to Mr. Botkai, and Ms. Botkai, obviously feel free to answer Councillor Alden's points as you wish in the summing up.
Thank you very much. Right, electric cars first. We won't be using electric cars. So if you look at condition 14 on page 31, we can strike out the words or other electric vehicles, so it's just pedal bike or electric bike. Probably should say, it could say scooter there, electric bike or scooter, but you can take out or other electric vehicles. So there's no, we don't use electric cars. We're not going to be using any cars. We're not going to be using the parking bays in the retail space. You can even take out the between the hours of 1800 and 0800, so you can make it all the time. But we're happy to commit to electric bikes at all times, electric bikes or electric scooters at all times. So I hope that deals with the first point, well, about electric cars, about parking bays. The click and collect concern, well, it would be against the law, so it would be an offence for us to sell alcohol for click and collect during the day. So we're going to have to make sure that our app doesn't allow somebody to use the click and collect for alcohol. That doesn't sound to me to be an insurmountable technical problem to solve. So you will not be able to order alcohol on our click and collect service. It's very easy for officers to if they wish to inspect, to check what's happening. That's a very straightforward enforcement issue, but we won't be doing it. In terms of the noise during the night, part of the problem with these applications, it sort of paints the impression that we're going to be having, that there's going to be bikes zooming in and out the whole time and doors crashing, and that's simply not the reality of it. It's not going to be so busy that you've got riders coming in the whole time. Plus, it's a quiet operation. We are doing lots of work on my issue that I've been raising with the client, and we've discussed over and over again. The only real noise that we can think of is actually the doors opening and closing as the riders go in and out, and they've been doing lots of work on that to create almost silent doors, so that when the bikes go in, that noise of the bike going in and out of the premises is not disturbing residents. But the actual packaging of goods downstairs during the night is not going to disturb residents. It's for us to ensure that the bikes going in and out don't disturb residents during the night. We've got lots of these stores that are operating. Some are in residential areas, some are not. There is a mixture. It's proving to be very popular. There is a demand. For it. The concern about alcohol making a noise. The alcohol products are no more noisy than any other product, whatever the vessel is, and also we don't deliver in big quantities, so it's most unlikely that someone would place a large order with us, because there are other services that provide that. So these have got to be orders that we can deliver safely on a bicycle or on a scooter. The concern about rider safety, they have constant support from base. So and this is all part of their training. We've not had a problem elsewhere, and so we're operating over 20 stores in London. I understand the concern that the councillor is raising, But we don't expect that to be an issue. We will, but obviously, if there is an issue, we will address it. We don't see that operating in Birmingham would be in any way different to working in London or other parts of the country. But we hear the point, and we need to take that away and make sure that our riders are safe and that they have the confidence to challenge for age. But people are used to that now. People are used to being challenged for age ID, and also the risks here are lower because in order to place the order, you're likely to be 18 or above anyway, because of the digital nature of the application. It's not somebody just walking into a shop and trying their luck to buy alcohol. So we're not seeing that as a problem anywhere else. We don't expect it to be a problem here. Look, in terms of the residents, we're happy to liaise if there is a representative of those residents. We want to be good neighbours. We will be their neighbours, and they may even be our customers, even though the bikes won't need to go very far. But we're very happy to liaise with them on a periodic basis if there can be somebody representing them. Very importantly with licensing, and I say this at every hearing where there are residents, that it is generally a fairly permissive piece of legislation. You need to make a decision based on evidence. So if there's evidence that we're likely to cause a public nuisance, then of course it's within your remit to restrict the license or to refuse it altogether. I would submit that what we have here is a fear of what may happen, and I understand that fear, but because there hasn't been the experience of this type of operation before. What the Licensing Act does is provide the power of review. So if, in fact, Councillor Arden's fears do materialise and we don't do anything about it, then there is the power to seek a review of the licence. And at that point, residents would be able to say, well, look, I'm being disturbed at this time, or this has happened, and ZAP have done nothing about it. And that would be a very straightforward review because there's nobody else causing that noise, there's nobody else creating that disturbance, and you would then be in a position to restrict the hours of the license or any other operation. And that's generally the way that licensing works. It needs to be based on your initial decision needs to be based on evidence if you are to refuse or restrict. But we have the sting in the tail, which is the review process. We're very confident that won't be necessary. We will work with any residents who have issues to make sure that they're comfortable. As for the night time, I hinted at it before, that the actual presence of these riders it does offer some comfort as well and security, having a visible presence at night. So they are uniformed, they will be known within the area, and hopefully a friendly face on the electric bikes. So I hope I've answered all the questions and the concerns that the councillor has addressed on behalf of the residents, and we would very much like to be given the opportunity to demonstrate that we can operate here safely and responsibly 24 hours a day. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Lofty. What we will now do is retire to delivery. So I'll ask all parties to leave the MS Teams meeting, and members of the committee lawyer and the committee manager will go into private session subcommittee to make this decision. You'll be notified of the decision of the subcommittee 5 working days. So can I thank everybody who's contributed to the hearing today, particularly Councillor Alden and Mr. Guy for the information you provided. And as I say, we will now retire to make our decision. Thank you.